Nerd alert! Learning is important, right?
Yes, exactly. What a bunch of nerds.
Nerd alert!
Right. Hello, and welcome to The Marketing Architects, a research-first podcast dedicated to answering your toughest marketing questions. I'm Elena Jasper. I run the marketing team here at Marketing Architects, and I'm joined by my co-host, Rob DeMars, the Chief Product Architect of Misfits and Machines.
I'm hungry to learn, Elena.
Well, I love the enthusiasm. We're back with your weekly Nerd Alert. Every week, I'll take a deep dive into academic marketing research and translate its complex ideas into simple, understandable language for Rob, and of course, for all of you. Are you ready to nerd out, Rob?
Thank you for breaking it down for me, Elena. I'm ready.
Let's get into it. As always, I'll link the research we cover in the episode notes. This week, I read An Involvement Explanation for Nostalgic Advertising Effects by Darrel D. Muehling of Washington State University and Vincent J. Poe of Eastern Washington University, published in 2012. So we are covering some nostalgic advertising today. Rob, how susceptible do you think you are to nostalgia and advertising?
I am an absolute sponge. When I think about growing up in the 80s, it was a little different than you had to like commercials because you could not skip them. So I consumed a lot of TV commercials that still speak into my soul as today. I mean, I think about when I drive through McDonald's, I drive my kids crazy because I still sing 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. Like, that's advertising.
The good old days. All right, you think you're susceptible?
Absolutely.
Well, one thing I learned in this study is that some of us are more susceptible to nostalgia than others. And I think I'd put myself in that bucket. It sounds like you'd put yourself there too. The authors, they wanted to provide some additional insights into why nostalgic ads tend to elicit more favorable consumer responses than non-nostalgic ads. Nostalgia is just generally assumed to work in advertising, but they really wanted to prove it. Let's define nostalgia. It's defined as a sentimental longing for one's past. It's often elicited when we hear certain music, watch an old movie, think about a family member, or remember an event. Nostalgia increases your self-esteem. It helps you feel connected socially, and I love this one, alleviates existential threat. So thanks,
Wow.
Nostalgia. We could all use a little bit more of that. We're more susceptible to nostalgia during stressful times in our lives. And did you know, Rob, that nostalgia was originally viewed as a psychological disorder associated with homesickness?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's one more psychological disorder I can add to my list.
Yep, same. But nostalgic thoughts are actually generally positive, but they're often still associated with sadness or a sense of loss because nostalgic memories, they can be selective and fanciful. We often idealize our past or reshape our memories to cope with what has happened to us. So if you think back to some of your experiences that are most nostalgic, they might have a feeling of a redemption sequence or turning a negative life scene from your past into a triumphant one. So nostalgia does a great job of enhancing our positive self-perception. Nostalgia has only become a business topic over the past few decades, but it's not surprising that nostalgic themes in advertising increase consumers' attitudes and purchase intent. What's different about this study in particular is that they filled a gap in the research. Prior to this study, it was still unclear why nostalgia is so effective in advertising. Let's break down nostalgia a little bit more. There are 2 main types of nostalgia, personal and historical. Personal nostalgia is a yearning for a realized lived past. Historical nostalgia is longing for a past that has never been personally experienced. Nostalgia is also described as having 3 levels. Level 1 is real, or something that was lived. Level 2 is simulated, or something that happened historically but not directly to you. And level 3 is collective, or something that is a shared past represented by a culture, a generation, or a national connection. So for me, level 1 nostalgia might be a childhood memory with a family dog. Level 2 might be the 1950s, post-World War II in the US, because that's a period that's often looked at with nostalgia, even if you never lived it. And level 3 could be a connection to a family culture. For example, my mom's side of the family is very proud of their Norwegian heritage, so anything that reminds me of Norway is going to bring those feelings of nostalgia. And finally, there's also 3 orders of nostalgia: simple, reflexive, and interpreted. Simple nostalgia is an unquestioned belief that things were better then than they are now. And that's the type of nostalgia that's most often used in marketing. Reflexive and interpretive nostalgia move into more questioning or scrutinizing the past, rather than just feeling sentimental. So, Rob, are there any things that come to your mind when you think about those different types of nostalgia, like personal versus historic?
It's interesting. I think about the Norelco Razor campaign and how they played off of the kind of the stop motion of the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Everybody loves to see those holiday ads that bring them back because they just feel good and they make you think of the holidays. But I also wonder about the manufactured nostalgia. When you think about Burger King and how they're bringing back some of the packaging and the look and feel of their ads that feel very retro, I can't honestly tell you that that packaging ever existed back in the day. I'm actually not sure if they're just playing off of a retro feel, but it makes me kind of feel warm and fuzzy for it. I don't know why. It just brings you back to kind of like the late 70s, early 80s kind of feel. And I have to imagine for the younger generation, they just think it's kind of hip and cool to have that vibe versus all the kind of the corporate stuff that's out there.
But the younger generation could actually be having historical nostalgia. Like you're having personal nostalgia because you might have
Yeah,
experienced it, but it might also be working on younger
that'd
people
be the
because,
historical
yeah,
nostalgia. Got it.
yeah, that reminds me too of Disney. I feel like it's been tapping into nostalgia a lot. They're remaking all these old movies. It's
Yes.
almost guaranteed to do well because we all just have different types of nostalgia with those classic Disney films.
I mean, they created a whole concept of bringing their movies out of a vault, right? So they were kind of
Hmm.
creating forced nostalgia, right? Like they put it in the vault and they bring it back. And then to your point, yeah, even the remakes that they're doing. It seems like Hollywood's been doing a lot of those lately. They just rebooted Roadhouse. There's a lot of people that loved Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze, and now they tapped into it with Jake Gyllenhaal, or however you say his last name.
Taylor Swift is kind of a master of nostalgia too, because she's re-releasing all those albums. And she also, when you said the vault, she has songs that she'll release like from the vault from those periods of time. But let's get back to nostalgia in advertising. As you can probably guess, like long story short, nostalgia definitely works. It increases brand recall, ad preference, generates more favorable brand attitudes, and it also increases the likelihood of purchase. There have been some hypotheses of why this is, including the fact that if a brand uses nostalgia, they'll benefit from some of the positive emotions. We might discuss a nostalgic ad more with friends, but these authors had three hypotheses for why nostalgic ads work better than non nostalgic ads. The first is that exposure to nostalgic ads will result in more favorable attitudes towards the advertisement and the brand. The second is that nostalgic ads promote more self reflection. And the third, nostalgic ads generate higher levels of ad involvement. The researchers also hypothesized that personal nostalgic ads will outperform historical nostalgic ads in all of these cases. So they put together a study. They had 269 undergraduate students, and this study was positioned as being sponsored by an ad agency interested in consumers' responses to promotional products. The participants ranged in age from 19 to 60 years, and they were evenly split in gender. Individuals were randomly assigned to three groups: personal nostalgia, historical nostalgia, and non nostalgia. They were then shown print ads for a fictitious brand of digital camera, and that was chosen because of its familiarity and use among college age individuals. Each ad contained a visual, headline, ad copy, and a picture of the camera. They asked participants a range of questions to measure attitude, self reflection, and personal and historical nostalgia. Please go download and read the study to learn more about how they measured this. It's too detailed to get into today, but the conclusions proved all three of their hypotheses true. Personal nostalgic ads generated more favorable ad attitudes, higher self reflection scores, and higher levels of ad involvement than the historical or non nostalgic ads. This study was the first of its kind to prove empirically that nostalgic advertising raises our self reflection and involvement with ads. Nostalgia is a powerful tool. We like ourselves and we like ads that help us think favorably of ourselves. Our self relevant thoughts are predictive of what our purchase intentions are. Now, personal nostalgia is not without its challenges. The more personalized you can make it, the more powerful, but what's relevant for Rob might not be relevant for me, so scale becomes challenging. And before I wrap up, I did ask our Rob GPT to break down the study for us in super simple
Nice.
terms. I got you, and here's what it came back with. Nostalgia, a longing for the past, boosts self esteem, social connection, and reduces stress. So the study shows that personal nostalgic ads are most effective, prompting favorable attitudes, self reflection, and higher ad involvement compared to historical or non nostalgic ads. This highlights nostalgia's power in advertising, but personalized nostalgia can be challenging to scale across different individuals. All right, Rob, what do you think?
I think it's so interesting. So they didn't specifically call out memorability as one of the attributes that they were studying, but I would assume that's inherent, right? Because it's nostalgic. So you have to be able to remember it. So just the compounding effects of remembering a memorable ad is interesting as well.
Yeah, you're right. They didn't talk about memory. I would think that since it's driving a higher purchase intent, it probably also is more memorable. They said that people liked these ads more, just
Yeah.
point blank. I think if you like an advertisement, you're probably more likely to remember it.
That was fascinating, Elena. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of The Marketing Architects. We'd like to thank Ayana Klaphocky for producing the show and Taylor De Los Reyes for editing. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, and if you find the show valuable, please leave us a rating and review. And if you'd like to hear more from us, subscribe to our weekly email newsletter. It's built for marketers seeking research-first analysis of the latest trends. You can go to marketingarchitects.com/newsletter to subscribe. Now go forth and build great marketing. One thing I thought was funny about this one is they use like a digital camera. This study it's not that old. Like it's 2012, which I guess is a long time ago. Like when's the last time you saw someone walking around with a digital? Now it would be showing like pictures of iPhones.
Right. But back in 2012, the phone cameras were actually not good enough yet. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, you couldn't even replicate the study today because everyone would feel nostalgic looking at like a digital camera.